Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into some horrific confession threads where I read some of your guys' viewers of the Snook channel's confessions and also some confessions from Reddit. And oh boy, it is a wild mix. And today I have some of the most disturbing, depressing, and just downright horrific confession threads I have ever read. So you'll want to make sure to stick around, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel subscriber goal is 1 million subscribers, so please subscribe. It helps more than you know. And all right, this video will be long enough already, so sit back, relax, grab a drink or grab a snack, and without further ado, let's get into some horrific confession threads. I was successfully tried and convicted for the murder of 2 people. Ask me anything. I'm going to avoid details that could give my identity away, though I'm sure someone will put the pieces together. In 2007, I was successfully tried and convicted for the murder of 2 individuals. One was a 31-year-old male, and the other was a 73-year-old man. At first, they tried to get me for 3 more, but there was a lack of evidence. It was pretty obvious they were just trying to pin whatever they could on me, and those cases were dropped within a month. I believe one of them has since been solved. Short version: the 31-year-old R-worded and beat my pregnant girlfriend. She lost the baby days later. I was deployed at the time, so I couldn't be there for her. She knew who it was but refused to tell the police. They have a habit of making things worse, so I don't, and still don't fault her for that. The month I got back, she confessed to me it was her friend from school. I found him on Facebook and got his address. I arrived at his house at 7:57 p.m. and broke in through a glass door in the back garden. He confronted me moments later, and I killed him. To this day, I truly don't remember exactly what happened. I just know I beat him, and he stopped moving. I knew he was dead after a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure, so I pulled out my gun and shot him twice in the forehead and cheek. Then I fired 4 more times into his stomach and neck. This next part is the part I regret. His 73-year-old father confronted me with a shotgun. All I really saw was a gun, so I shot him in the chest. He died instantly. Shortly after, the police arrived and I was arrested without incident. I served 12 years of a 23-year sentence and was released earlier this year. I was very lucky in the way I was treated by the legal system in my country. That's the short version, I guess. Ask me anything. One user says, "Why were you released so early? Isn't first-degree murder usually punished by life in prison? Also, what happened to your relationship with your girlfriend and other people in your life? Other than killing the 73-year-old, is there any other effects that you regret?" And the OP responds and says, "I'm not American. Different system where I am. I am still with my girlfriend now. Most of my friends are guys I served with, and we are still in contact. I regret the time I lost, and I regret making such a mess. I believe the male I killed deserved it. I simply wish I'd killed him in a manner that hadn't uprooted my life and led to another man's death. Not that his death was anyone's fault but my own. I pulled the trigger. I have to own that." Someone else says, "How much time was there between the incident with the 31-year-old man and his father? Were you just waiting around for someone else to show up, or did he show up there immediately after? Also, what's it like spending so much time in prison?" And the OP responds saying, "I killed the 31-year-old male within a minute. I sort of took it in before shooting his body. I was only a few seconds after I started shooting until the man turned up. All I saw was his gun, so I killed him. And boring. Very boring. Lonely at times too. World goes on and you're stuck. I'm not saying I deserved better, but the prison system is broken. 99% of the guys in there, petty crooks or serious criminals, come out worse than when they went in." Another user says, "What do you do now? Have you had any trouble finding employment?" What does your family/friends think? How old are you now? And the OP responds saying, bike mechanic. Yes and no. Never going to be able to get a regular job, but there are programs in place that help people like me. Most of my friends served with me and don't judge me for what happened. I don't have any biological family. I'm in my 30s. Another user says, number 1, are you sorry for what you did? And number 2, about those other murders. You said one was solved, but what about the others? Why did they accuse you, and did you do it? And the OP replies saying, I regret killing the 73-year-old man. He was trying to defend his child, and he wasn't responsible. I don't regret killing the 31-year-old male, and I would do it all over again if I had a time machine. He deserved it. And then someone replies saying, sorry, just realized you never addressed my second question. Can you please? And the OP responds saying, sorry, forgot to address that. No, I didn't kill them. I'm not a naturally violent person and would never randomly kill someone. What happened was a result of me wanting to get revenge and then getting caught up in the moment and firing without cause. I believe they linked me to the case because I was within the general area and there were also firearms related incidents. However, I genuinely did not commit those crimes. I wouldn't kill someone without reason. It's illogical. Someone else asks, how much do you enjoy this AMA? Is it strange to relive it with strangers, or does it help you move forward? And the OP responds saying, it's interesting to discuss this with the general public. I wouldn't say I enjoy it, but it's interesting. I moved on a while ago. I just thought it would make for an interesting Q&A, and I've always wanted to do one and get some perspectives. I just don't want to become famous for what I did or deal with the media, so I never did it officially before. And then another user says, what other actions could you or would you have taken versus breaking into his house and killing him? And the OP coldly responds, probably would have killed him with carbon monoxide or dissolved his body and buried his teeth, etc., under the grave of a dog or something. That way, when sniffer dogs roll around, they'll dig up the dog's grave and the police will move on thinking that's all there was to find. You'd be surprised how easy it is to get away with murder if you just use your brain. I didn't. Confession. My wife cheated on me and I did something most people would regret, but I don't. Hey Snook, I'm a huge fan and I listen to your videos pretty much every day while I do my job. It makes time fly really fast. I don't need advice, but I kind of do need this off my shoulders. I'm embarrassed. I'm alone. I have no one to really tell this without feeling embarrassed or risking getting in trouble because I'm sure I would. I, 25 male, came home early and caught my wife cheating. I'm 25 and I never thought I'd be writing something like this. My wife and I have been together since high school. We started dating when I was 16. She was my first everything. We got married young and I truly believed we were endgame. She moved in with my family when I was 18. She was 20. My mom basically adopted her, and soon after that, we saved up together and bought our own home. I never once laid a hand on her in anger, not ever. But she knew the one line she could never cross: cheating, especially under my roof. Yesterday started like any normal workday. I was exhausted and not feeling great, so I clocked out early without telling her. I figured I'd surprise her. Maybe we could just relax together on the couch. When I pulled up, her car was in the driveway, but the house felt too quiet. Then I heard noises from upstairs. Moaning, the bed creaking. My stomach dropped. I don't even remember walking up the stairs. My heart was hammering. I pushed open the bedroom door, and there they were. My wife, completely unclothed, on top of some guy I'd never seen before. Both of them going at it in our bed. For a second, everything froze. Then the rage hit me like nothing I've ever felt. The guy saw me first and panicked. He tried to push her off of him, babbling that he didn't know she was married. My wife started crying, saying my name over and over like that would make it better. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just turned around, went straight to my closet, and came back with my Colt M1 911, loaded and pointed right at his face. "Get up," I said, calm as hell. He scrambled off the bed, unclothed and shaking, hands in the air. My wife was sobbing, trying to cover herself with the sheets. I kept my gun steady on him. "You liked being with my wife in my house? Good. Now you're going to beat the shit out of her while I watch." He looked at me like I was crazy, begging, "Please no, man." I clicked the safety off and told him it was either her or his brains will be on the wall behind him. His choice. I had nothing to lose. I wasted 9 years of my life, brought her into my home when she had nowhere to go. I didn't care anymore. He was terrified, but he did it. He slapped her across the face, then kept going when I told him to not hold back. Punches to the body, the face, whatever I pointed at. She was screaming and crying, begging me to stop him, telling me she was sorry, that it was a mistake. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction watching it happen. When she was a bloody, bruised mess on the floor, I finally told him to get out. He ran out of my house, unclothed, without looking back. I left her there like that. I locked myself in the guest room with the gun for a while, then just left the house. I knew she wouldn't call the cops. She'd be too scared of getting him locked up for what just happened. I've never been charged for any of it. I kicked her out of the house, and we are divorcing, and we are trying to make it as clean as possible, but we also live in a state where infidelity is very frowned upon, so she won't get anything and I won't lose anything. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel right now. The anger is there, but mostly it's this numb emptiness mixed with something else I can't name. 9 years wasted. Had to grow up and mature at such an early age for what? Do I regret making him beat her? Not for a single second. She crossed the only line I ever told her not to and wasted half my life. My 50 female daughter and husband, 15 female and 49 male, died. My son, 18 male, recently attempted S-word. I feel like part of this is my fault, and now it's too late. I am not sure if this is the right place for this. My daughter died from cancer, a very fast-acting cancer which she chose not to get treatment for. Over the span of 4 months, she deteriorated and then died. During this time, my husband turned into a severe alcoholic and drug abuser. I got depressed, and as did my son. Watching my daughter, the sweetest child in the world, pass away like that was horrific. My husband's alcoholism and drug abuse, he was doing pills heavily as well, although tried to keep it a secret, spiraled out of control to the point where he was drinking a $20 bottle of vodka every day, and then some more after. He would often go out and not come home for the entire night. My son kept on trying to get him to stop, and I sort of tried, but I was so depressed that I just didn't have the heart to put in much emotional effort into him. I isolated myself completely and was like a zombie. My husband died in our basement bathroom, covered in his own vomit. He died from a mix of huge amounts of alcohol and huge amounts of pills mixed together. I knew he was doing pills, but I never knew the real extent of it until we found his stash of pills after he died. His death came about 3 to 4 months after my daughter's death. After my husband died, I sort of woke up from my daze. But not long after, I fell back into it. My son also fell into a horrible, deep depression. It wasn't only his dad and sister dying. His grades fell apart. He got rejected from almost every college except for community colleges. He gained well over 100 pounds in the year after his dad died. Both of us were just a mess. I didn't leave bed most days. He stayed in his room, doing whatever he would do. Video games, I imagined. I didn't ignore the signs completely the way I did with my husband. I tried to reach out to him, get him into therapy for a while, but my own depression was so bad that I was giving up on everything. I think at a certain point, we just left each other alone. In the 2 months before, we barely spoke at all. It wasn't hard. Our house is big. Our rooms are far apart. And then he tried to commit S-word by jumping. He survived. He got a broken foot and his toe was all mangled, but he survived. I saw where he tried to jump off. It was a long distance. I don't even know how he managed to only break his foot. I feel such a wave of guilt flow over me since the incident, both for him and for my husband too. I didn't pay enough attention. I didn't give them what they needed. I was selfish, honestly. I am their mother and wife, and I just isolated myself instead of being with them and helping them and getting them through this. I constantly think that if I was more attentive, more demanding for my husband to get sober, then this wouldn't have happened. None of it. Losing my daughter was horrible, but we couldn't control that. But this is our decisions. And my presence influences their decisions arguably more than anything. I just don't know what to do. I want to help my son, but don't know how. And I feel he has ignored my attempts to help him because I've ignored him for so long. I can't tell if he is still S-word. I can't tell if the second his foot heals, he is going to try again. I am awake in that I'm aware of my being in place instead of being a depressed zombie like I have been for the past 2 years. But I'm feeling hopeless again that I can't help. A year ago, I relapsed on H and recovered. I never told my wife or kids. I have a wife and 2 kids, aged 14 and 11. I was a H addict from 16 years old to 23 years old, which was when my first son was born. My wife helped me get sober and remains an amazing person and wife overall. Last year, my wife had surgery and got pain pills. I don't know what the fuck came over me, but I just wanted to try one to remember how good it felt. I was thinking, it was an H, right? So maybe I won't relapse? I can't even describe how stupid of a decision it was. I wasn't depressed or particularly yearning for H, but I just wanted to try it. Literally right away, it felt so unbelievably amazing that I took 2 more the next day. On day 3, it took about 4 to 5. I was high the entire day, feeling absolutely amazing. By day 5, I went to one of the local dealers and got drugs. Literally only took me 5 days to get back on it. My wife never got a hint. My kids never suspected anything. I was lucky this happened while my wife was recovering from her surgery. She was bedridden most of the day, so I was mostly free to do what I want. I didn't use a needle. I just blew it up my nose. I did it every single day for 2 weeks. The only suspicion was my daughter saying I was acting weird when I was high, and when my son went downstairs at night and I was mumbling because I was nodding out. He just assumed I was tired. I knew I had to do something. I wanted to just leave, run away to New Mexico, or something and just do H the entire time, then maybe come back. At the time, it was literally all I wanted. I kept making these horrible, immoral excuses for my usage, like, oh, my kids are old enough, and my wife is a good mom. They don't even need me. I can just run away and do H on an island forever. That was the kind of shit I would think. I knew it was bullshit, but it's so damn powerful. I ended up quitting. I just sort of forced myself to stop, which previously when I was a teen seemed impossible, but now it feels like I have more to live for. It's been a whole year since then. I remember because my wife's surgery was the day before the 4th of July. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, OP, the cliche comes to mind, it's not a sin to fall down, but it is a sin to not get back up. You turn to a dangerous but familiar coping mechanism in an undoubtedly stressful time in your life. 2 kids, bedridden wife, etc. But you realized you were on a bad path and pulled yourself back. If anything, I'd say it's something to learn from and be proud of. Someone else says, I would encourage you to tell your wife for one reason and one reason only. Life happens, and it's possible you'll end up with pills in your home again due to some other reason. Your wife needs to lock that shit down and remove your ability to get them. It's the same as some alcoholics can never, ever have alcohol in their home or they will drink it. If you feel you can't tell her about your relapse and recovery, then tell her you struggled with having them accessible in your home, and if anything like that comes in again, she is going to need to lock that shit down. You did extremely well to bring yourself back, OP. All I'm suggesting is to not put yourself in that position again. And then someone replies saying, yes, I agree with this. OP should not hide it from her. Someone else says, it's crazy how quickly something that we worked so hard for could get taken away if we don't take the time to appreciate what we do have. Good for you. Someone else says, are you sure she didn't notice? Taking 8 pills from a bottle is pretty noticeable. Usually after surgery, they don't give you that many that you wouldn't notice 8 missing. And the OP replies saying, I probably should have mentioned that she didn't even use the pills except for the first day. I think she just assumed I threw the bottle out eventually when she told me she wasn't going to take them anymore. I've been blackmailing the local drug dealer. About 6 months ago, the druggy woman in my street had her brother move in with her. This guy is dodgy. He's ripping off disability. I've seen him breaking into cars and was watching my wife one night as she got home from work. Anyways, we had a knock on the door a few months ago. It was a junkie wanting crystal. She got the street numbers mixed up. I watched as she went into the house and thought, that's how they make their money. Anyways, I started watching the house. I work from home a lot and see a lot. I started to write down and watch every car that pulled up to their house. My wife works for a guy who's best friends to a cop, and she mentioned to him about the dealing. He said it'll take at least 12 months before the police would even investigate. So I started a Bitcoin account and sent them a letter saying I want $1,000 a week put into the account or I'll go to the police with everything I got. I put in a couple of photos and videos taken from the front of their house and with people and cars. So far, I've made $10,000, and with a baby on the way, it's coming in handy. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, playing with the devil, dude. I'm afraid for you. Another person says, good way to get yourself killed. And the OP says, I'm not in the States. This guy, from what I can tell, isn't a user of it. Does dope though. And then someone replies saying, you don't think drug dealers kill people in other countries besides the US? You are seriously creating a situation that will lead to jeopardizing you and your baby. And that's basically what everyone else in the comments was saying, how it's not worth jeopardizing your life blackmailing a drug dealer who may or may not be dangerous, and pay some money to track down whoever is blackmailing him and ending up hurting or killing the OP. But the OP did post about about 22 days ago from the latest update because this was posted 7 years ago. And so the OP is still alive, but whether or not something happened, I don't know. I bullied a kid who later died, and I feel terrible about it. Back in elementary school, there was this kid, we'll call him Jay, who was kind of an outcast. One day during recess, Jay scratched another kid who made the kid bleed. It was a total accident. I saw one of my buddies totally bashing Jay for doing it, and Jay started crying. Instead of trying to help out, I joined in and kept saying, "What is wrong with you?" and making Jay feel like total garbage. About 2 weeks later, I was in class and I got a cut on my finger and it started bleeding. Jay saw it and immediately ran to help and make a makeshift band-aid out of a tissue and tape to make sure I'd quit bleeding. Super sweet kid who decided to help me out, even though I was a total asshole to him. Jay ended up moving to a new school about 2 years later, and I found out he died by getting crushed by a trailer attached to a four-wheeler. I hope you're in a better place, Jay, and I'm so sorry for being an asshole to you. Such a sweet guy, and I'll never forget you, man. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "I believe this. There was a girl in school when I was a kid who was mentally challenged. I never spoke a word to her. However, my friends and I would make fun of her behind her back. We were stupid kids. I heard she died a few years later of some disease, and I always think about her, even to this day. I was a dumb kid, and she was just another person trying to get by." And the OP replies saying, "Yeah, I'm not lying. Just looked up his obituary today and sent a message to his family." Another user says, "It seems we've all been mean as kids at some point in time. I was a total asshole to a lot of people. One kid in particular, I was extraordinarily mean to in high school. His family ended up dying in a car crash, which put him in an even darker place. I, of course, laid off of him after what happened, but I feel if I would have never been so hard on him, he would have been in a better place to get through this. I can't say I'll ever forgive myself for the ways I've treated people. I'll spend my life trying to make up for it. I've damned myself for sure. You get so caught up in things, especially in school, you don't realize how mean life itself can be. Support and love each other in life. It's already hard enough on people, especially our youth." And then someone else says, "Hey man, at least you feel remorseful. Just keep your head high. Think of them often and always treat people like it's the last time you're going to see them. You're a good person. Remind yourself that every day. Don't allow your future self to be a product of your past." I'm an ex-hitman that has just been released. Ask me anything. Hello, Reddit. Let me tell you my story. I've recently been released from jail on parole after serving 7 years. Let me explain why I was in the can. As the title says, I used to be a gunman for hire, or a hitman. I took many jobs that included extortion, kidnapping, blackmail, and some others I'm not extremely proud of mentioning. Anywho, I met some amazing people in the can, and I've got plenty of stories and lessons that I learned throughout my time. I'm also open to any questions about my old job. Thank you. And now let's get into the comments and questions. Someone says, "How did you get into that line of work? How did you get caught? Did you ever feel guilty during or after a job? Or ever consider a different line of work? How did you ever find the clients? I don't imagine you can post an ad on Craigslist or something, LOL. Do you have a significant other and or child? If so, do they know what you did? If so, what do they think? Do your parents know? If so, what do they think? What are your plans moving forward?" And the OP responds saying, "I was introduced to it by a friend of mine who was in the same line of work. I got caught due to evidence left at a kidnapping scene. No, I never felt guilty. I detached myself from the job a lot. We found clients throughout word of mouth that wasn't a big secret. But we had proxies that would find genuine jobs for us. Yes, I have a fiance. She didn't like me doing it at all, and in fact, she left me multiple times to do it. But since I got released, things have gotten better. Probably trying MMA/boxing instructor. Someone else says, do you feel your time in prison as well served or just a momentarily pause? Did it result in any real changes to your perspective on life and your purpose on it? And the OP responds saying, to be honest, I was used to the routine every day. At the beginning of my time, I kept to myself. But humans need contact and can't live in complete solidarity. Yes, it was scary. But if you don't beef with anyone, prison isn't as bad as people make it out to be. It showed me that people can truly change. I've met murderers that hated themselves for what they've done and believe they themselves shouldn't be released. So yes, the biggest change I had to deal with was adjusting to the outside world when I got released. Sorry for the long answer. Another user says, hardest hit to carry out either psychologically or physically? And the OP responds saying, well, I didn't feel much towards the jobs I have done, but it was very difficult in the beginning. We had to extract information from a POI, so it was my first time torturing someone to the extent we did it. I'll never forget it, but it was a giant learning curve. And the user responds to the OP there saying, understandable. I'm sure in time the faces and names kind of blur together and you just get desensitized to it. And the OP responds saying, yeah, it all depends on the mindset you have. If you think of them as people while you're doing it, you wouldn't get a wink of sleep. Another user asks, most gruesome way you killed someone? And the OP responds saying, I had a job in the late 2000s. It was me and 2 other people. We had a job to take care of a person that was harassing the wife of one of our customers. We were paid to get him to back off, but we did some digging on him and found out he was also a registered SO. I'm not an emotional guy. I'm 6'4" and an absolute unit, so stuff doesn't really faze me. But when children are involved, I'm a different person. I won't go into much detail here, but we spent hours in latex gloves, a dingy basement, rusty handheld tools such as hammers, a crowbar, a wrench, and pliers. We made sure he stayed conscious the entire time by administering some adrenaline we had obtained from a client. But eventually, it was too much for him, and he died due to his body going into shock from the sudden loss of blood near the end of our meeting with him. Someone else says, LMAO at the idiots believing this. Paroled after 7 years for multiple murders? Not even in the most liberal countries do they do that. And the OP responds saying, actually, cooperation and good behavior gets you off a long time if you actually admitted to your crimes in the first place. The crimes held against me weren't murders. And the person replies saying, so you're admitting to murders that you weren't charged with on Reddit? And the OP responds saying, never said I'd admitted to doing them, but planning on them, yes. Plus, I've already done my time. It isn't illegal to state public knowledge. And then the person replies saying, LMFAO, you admit to doing them, and it isn't public knowledge if you weren't charged with them. Just give it up, you can only fool fools. And the OP responds saying, the fact I'm not attempting to fool anyone, though, kind of means you're not believing the truth. Isn't that the meaning of a fool? And as I said, it was a charge of conspiracy to commit. And so what do you guys think? Do you think this guy's an actual hitman or ex-hitman posting on Reddit, or just another troll? I don't know, but leave your thoughts down below. I spent a year hiding from the government. Hi Snook, long-time listener. You've helped a lot of long shifts fly by, so I wanted to share something. This might be more tame compared to some of your other wilder submissions, but I feel like it could help some viewers out there. To start, growing up, I never wanted to join the military. It wasn't a family tradition or anything, just an erratic and spontaneous decision overnight. I was 19, lost and looking for a thrill, or maybe just a purpose. The day after I submitted my info on the website, I got a call from a recruiter. And a month later, I was on the yellow footprint at MCRD San Diego. I was a problem recruit at first. I hated being there, and the mental grind was a massive shock to my system. I regretted it almost immediately, but during phase 2, something in my brain clicked and I became an example of a good recruit. My efforts paid off and I graduated with a meritorious promotion to PFC. I gave a huge amount of my transformation to one of my drill instructors. He destroyed me and rebuilt me into a prime Marine. He'd always say, pressure makes diamonds, and goddamn, did he put me through a lot of pressure. Then came boot leave. Typically, it's 10 days, but mine was extended to 30 because there wasn't space in the next MCT cycle. My family saw an immediate change in me. Not just my appearance, but my demeanor. On the outside, I seemed like a brand new person, but something lingered in the back of my mind. Like the hairs on the back of my neck were still clinging to my past. Around day 10 of leave, all that fresh boot motivation just evaporated. I started drinking heavily. I wouldn't even show up to recruiting duty without 99-cent banana liquor for breakfast, still hungover from the night before. When the day came to check into MCT, I flew back to San Diego a day early and booked a hotel. I can't even pinpoint the cause, but I had this heavy sense of impending doom, an unshakable anxiety that kept me up all night. I just laid there, ate a meal, and then I just didn't go. No big thought, just action. I booked a flight for the same day back home. For over a year, I was ghost. Once you hit 30 days, you're considered a deserter. I lived in a state of constant low-level terror for over 12 months. I worked odd jobs at night and took Ubers everywhere so I didn't have to drive. There were a few times I was in a car that got pulled over and I just sit there with my heart hammering, waiting for them to ask for my ID and see the warrant. They never did. The paranoia kept me inside, but the shame is what kept me away from the people I loved. I missed a lot of family events and birthdays just because of the guilt. I hated showing my face and seeing the looks of disappointment, so I just used the medical reasons excuse to explain why I wasn't home. I felt like a fraud every time someone congratulated me. The only person who wasn't dumb enough to believe me was my 18-year-old brother. I never told him directly I was AWOL, but he knew. And also, AWOL means absent without leave, and also this can lead to severe jail time, 18 months to 5 years, or you'll also have a loss of pay and benefits. And so basically, it's a big deal to just desert the military, so that's why the OP is so concerned. But let's continue. He just looked at me and told me to fix it. I ended up severely depressed and tried to commit S-word a couple of times during that year, but I just couldn't run from my problems. Then the inevitable finally came, but it wasn't the police. My little brother committed S-word. I was so blinded by my own situation that I failed to see the demons he was battling. The shock snapped me back to reality. I didn't care about the jail time or the warrants anymore. Nothing mattered compared to him. A month after his funeral, I called the military police and explained everything. I flew back to San Diego, turned myself in at the gate, and was promptly arrested. I expected the worst, but it was mostly just a mountain of paperwork. I was demoted, did my 45-45, and got administratively separated 4 months later. It's been 8 months since I lost him. I sometimes wonder if that sense of impending doom I felt in that hotel was a warning about my brother, and I was just too self-absorbed to see it. If you're in a similar situation with the military, do yourself a favor and just turn yourself in. It's not worth the nightmare. And to the ones dealing with S-word thoughts, please reach out. Give a cry for help that screams at the whole world, because I promise you, sitting in the dark with your secrets isn't worth it. If anybody watching has a similar situation going on with the military, leave a comment on the video. I'll be checking them and I'll reach out to offer whatever advice I can. I miss you so much, bro. I'm trying to fix it. Just like you said. I just found out my husband is a R-wordist. I, 44 female, have been married to my husband for 17 years. We have 3 children together, ages 15, 13, and 10. We've had a perfect marriage. I didn't know my husband in childhood at all. He moved to my state a few months before we got together. We're about to be moving houses and I was packing things away, and I found this old journal. I thought maybe it was mine, but as I got to reading, I realized it wasn't. It was my husband's guilty confession about his friends and him having intimacy with this passed out drunk girl in the college in his hometown. It goes into great detail about the things they did to her and how she woke up in the middle of it. 17 years I spent with this man. He treated me so great. Amazing provider, partner, husband. He's an amazing father to our kids. We have 2 girls. I'm not sure how he can look at them, hug them, and know what he did to someone else's daughter. I'm disgusted. I'm appalled. I plan to divorce. This breaks my heart. I'm so in love with my husband, but I no longer see my husband. I see a R-wordist. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I had this happen to me. I was that girl. And I woke up in the middle of it all. It's been 30 years, but the vivid images still haunt me. I killed my stalker, and I'm not sorry. I'm writing this to share a series of deeply unsettling events I've experienced recently. For several years, I was targeted by a stalker, an ex-boyfriend who became obsessed with me after I moved away for college. This situation involved persistent harassment through violent messages and several disturbing incidents where items were left at my home. I eventually discovered he had been remotely accessing my laptop's webcam using software he installed while we were dating. Although I reported these incidents to the police at the time, no action was taken. Approximately 4 weeks ago, while driving home late at night in a rural area, I struck an individual who ran into the road. Upon stopping, I discovered it was the man who had been stalking me. I immediately called 911, and he was airlifted to a hospital but unfortunately passed away en route. While I am physically safe and understand I'm being protected under the Good Samaritan law, I'm still processing the shock of this situation. My vehicle sustained only minor paint damage, and while the incident aggravated some internal stitches from a recent surgery, I am managing my recovery. I felt it was important to document these details and get this off my chest. I hope to not scare people or inspire to hit their stalkers with their car, but damn, if it didn't feel like a weight off of my chest when I heard he was pronounced dead. I'm a gambling addict. Ask me anything. That's me, a degenerate addict, and I often hate myself because I have so little control. I'm female, middle-aged, and my game of choice is slots. Yes, I dream of hitting it big. But if I did, I'd probably be one of those people you read about or hear about that would lose it all eventually. It's the dopamine hit. The thrill of what may line up when I press that button. I just want more when I get a win. And almost all of my wins end up getting played back, often at the same session. I've learned to only take the money I'm going to play with and that I need to get there, gas or food, because I know it's highly unlikely that I'm walking out with anything. I've drove away with less than $2 in change in my pocket and been hungry. Not starving, but hungry for a meal on my way home. I've done without food or buying less food during the week so I can take more cash to the casino, barely paying or paying late the essential bills, and now behind on my car payment because of my addiction. it spiraled badly in the last 2 months as I started going to a nearby casino, and after winning and playing it back a few thousand, I got sucked in. I kept getting good free play offers on average 3 times a week for a couple of months now, so that made it easier to keep going back, and I'd take some cash that I should haven't been spending. The free play has dried up now, except one more lowish offer tomorrow. I'm telling myself I'm not going tomorrow, but it's tempting me. And I lie to myself, saying just one more time, and maybe I will win enough to get myself out of this hole, but chances are, if I did get lucky, I just play it back and walk out with that feeling of pure hatred of myself and feeling hopeless. I've been a gambling addict for 15 years, spiraling every few months. It's hell. And now let's get into some of the top questions and comments. Do you logically understand that you will always lose money, even if you win small amounts? If so, what keeps the thrill going? Is it the flashy screens and the numbers? In the OP responds saying, yes, I do logically understand. It's the dopamine hit for me. Slots these days are designed to hook you, and they are very addictive by design. They have always been, of course, but the last 10 years, probably more so than ever. Someone else says, have you tried to get help? I had an early stage addiction, so I forced myself to play them at the lowest bet until I hated them. I don't even think about playing them anymore. And the OP responds saying, I've went for help, but nothing sticks long term. Another user says, how did it start? I can understand drug addictions, but never gambling addictions. The few times I gambled, I just slowly lost my money till I left. Even when I won, it was just stressful because I wanted to keep gambling, but I knew I should have just left with the money. I don't know. It was just not fun at all to me, just stressful to be honest. And the OP responds saying, maybe the root of it is my genetics. My father was an alcoholic. I liked games as a kid, board games, card games, and sometimes the occasional game of poker. I don't recall the poker games being for real money, however. A very difficult life started for me in my preteen years. Maybe it was the small hits of dopamine and my distraction from life that rooted it way back then. My first trip to a casino was in the late 90s, and shortly after I realized that this could be bad for me. I don't go that often back then, and sometimes I would go a few years in between visits, so it wasn't an issue for me back then, but I felt the danger. When I really sank the boat was when I started gambling online. Some poker and then slots. That was about 15 years ago. I no longer gamble online, but now there is a casino about 1.5 hours away. And then someone replies saying, damn, an hour and a half? How frequently do you go? Do they give you rooms? And the OP says, the last 2 months, 2 times a week, occasionally a third time in the same week. The free play offers had a lot to do with my binge. It's over now. Big offers of free play is done, and I just do not have the cash because of what I've blown through in the last 2 months, and I've got to catch up with my car payment. I've even lost my weight because I've played my grocery money. How stupid is that? Someone else says, have you ever lost everything? And the OP responds saying, I've played away almost every bit of money I had with me on most trips, sometimes going home with less than $1 and change. Luckily, I don't have rent or mortgage. I have the usual expenses, and I'm behind on my car payment because of my latest binge. And we have not heard from the OP since then. This was about 2 years ago, so who knows what happened to the OP, if they kept spiraling and kept having these binge sessions and binge gambling sessions, or if they finally got the help they needed. But I really hope the OP went to some Gamblers Anonymous or got some help or went to therapy or something to help get over this addiction, because, I mean, the OP said it. They've been gambling on and off for 15 years. And obviously they can't keep it up because the OP is behind on their car payment. They're not feeding themselves. And obviously it's very dangerous. And so I really hope that the OP was able to get off of gambling and get the help that they so desperately needed. My mistake could cost my patient's life. This has been eating away at me for so many days. I'm not sleeping well, nor can I even live my life without this hanging over me every second of my day. So forgive me if I mess up this post in any way. This patient has been with me for months. It's a complicated case, so we couldn't let them go home with all the knots tied up. So this day I decided to give them some release of their pain, a heat treatment. You can call it malpractice, incompetence, a lack of judgment, but what happened was that it was too hot and I didn't pick it up because of their skin condition. So we only found out the next day that they had developed a blister. All things considered, it could have been worse. Over the next few days, it was healing well. I went on holiday a short while after that. Also, just to interject, I think we have to assume this is a doctor, and the doctor messed up treating the patient. I just wanted to interject there, but let's continue. But it all came crashing down while I was away. The broken skin developed an infection, and now my patient's not even under my care anymore. They have been sent to another setting to get better care. I know how this story can go. We know how infections can go. It's still an ongoing case, and I literally feel like dying every day knowing I have caused harm to this person and knowing what could happen at any time. I made a mistake. It was 100% my fault and that of my incompetence. I work in the healthcare sector, so I have to keep as much confidential as possible, but I really have to talk to someone before my thoughts of S-word get the better of me. Edit. I know this post is old, but I'd like to post an update. Mostly for myself. In the time I originally posted this, the patient returned to my care, and we were able to send the patient home. Though it was in a less than ideal state, we've reached this point and it's honestly rattling. I'm still dealing with the consequences of my actions, and some days are a little tougher than others, but at the very least, I'm moving forward. Thank you to all those who've responded. It helps a lot to keep me grounded, and I still come back from time to time when I feel like I need it. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Mistakes happen. In your sector, it is more costly, but it doesn't mean we're not human. Your intentions were good, and you will learn something to benefit you and your patients in the future. Yes, it sucks, but you doing something stupid will not help make this better. Think of all the people you have and will help in your life that you can't if you died. One mistake doesn't erase your heart. In the OP response saying, "Thank you so much. It's been difficult keeping this quiet, so posting my feelings as well as reading your comment has lifted a lot of weight I put on myself. I should only think of how I can be better to my current and future patients from here on." Another user says, "From an outside perspective, I'll say that it doesn't really seem like you're at fault. We both know that you had good intentions and that it was just a mistake. But I know that it's a very real issue for you and that you need someone in your corner. Accidents happen, and so long as you try to make up for / fix what's wrong, I believe you've made a point to warrant forgiveness. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Just learn and apply what you learn to the next situation." And the OP responds saying, "Hey there. I know it's been a few days, but I'd still like to thank you for your responding. My way of coping right now is to push this down and focus on the tasks at hand instead, but when the difficult feelings dredges back up again, I come back to this post to pull myself back together. It may not be today, but I do believe one day I'll learn to forgive myself." I beat up a kid because he kicked my elderly dog. I was reminded of this when I read a venting post in r/dogs about a woman who restrained herself from slapping a child when the kid kicked her dog. Several years ago, I was in a similar situation, and I didn't restrain myself at all. When I was 23, my 14-year-old Beagle mix was diagnosed with a fast-acting cancer that had already started to spread. I'd had him since he was 1, and I made it my mission in life to keep him as comfortable and happy as I could. There was nothing he loved more than walking in the park, so I packed him up in the car and went for a short and slow walk every day. He was the sweetest, friendliest boy, so it was absolutely shocking when, on one of our walks, a boy we'd never seen before, who was probably 10 to 11, ran up to us screaming, "I hate your ugly, gross dog, lady." My initial response was, okay, we're just passing by, so goodbye then. Then the little jerk let out an inhuman screech and ran forward and kicked my dog in the stomach. My poor boy yelped and whimpered and crumpled to the ground in pain. And the kid laughed in that horribly demonic way only a child can laugh, and then reeled back to kick again. Before that moment, I had never experienced rage as an adult. I'm pretty evenly keeled person, and I'm typically a pacifist and diplomat. This was the first and only time in my life that I saw red. Before my brain had even processed what happened, I'd already lunged at the kid and sort of half grabbed, half shoved him by the neck and pushed him to the ground very hard. He immediately burst into tears, and that's when I should have stopped, but I couldn't stop. It was the only time in my life when I felt like I wasn't in control of my actions. The kid was scrambling to get up, and I kicked him really hard in the side, several times. Then I grabbed him by his sweatshirt hood and screamed in his face at the top of my lungs. I screamed some really horrible things at him, something like that I'd find him and kill him slowly if he ever tried to hurt another animal again, but it felt like the words were just erupting out of me with no thought or effort. At that point, the kid was ugly sobbing and apologizing and begging me to let him go, which I guess helped me to sort of snap out of it, because I felt myself, or lack of a better description, return to my body. I felt totally numb and sort of inebriated, but the rage was gone. I let the kid go and told him to go find his mom, and hastily added, "And don't ever kick a dog again." He ran off crying. I scooped my dog up, hustled to my car, and left. I was oddly calm. I drove to the vet and told them only that a child had kicked my dog and ran away, and I wanted to get him checked out. They checked him out and said there was no serious damage other than the beginnings of a bruise. I drove us home, got into the shower, and sobbed for hours. I had no idea until then that I was capable of doing anything like that. I started therapy the next week to deal with the anger issues I didn't know I had until then. And I've never had another issue like that. I didn't go back to that park for years, for fear of running into that kid again. Mostly for fear that his parents would be there and get me arrested. I took Freddie to a different park that was a little further from the house, but he actually liked it more because it had good, soft dirt to dig in until his final day on Earth. I think about that kid sometimes, though. I wonder how my actions impacted him. Did I scare him straight? Did I teach him to be more violent? Does he have some complex about short women now because a short woman beat him up when he was a kid? He's got to be at least a teenager by now. I wonder how often he thinks about it, if ever. I wonder if he sees himself as being entirely the victim, or if by now he's loved and lost a pet, and understands the drive behind what I did. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "Just recently I had a guy at an off-leash dog beach repeatedly swing a branch at my dog and abuse me. If it weren't for his young children being there with him, I think I would have been looking at a pretty serious assault charge, to be honest." Seeing someone unprovoked do that sort of shit to your dog is also probably the most rage-inducing thing I've experienced in my adult life. And the OP replies saying, "Since Freddie, I've always had very large dogs, Rotties and the like. And I think one of the reasons I made that choice is because most people don't mess with them. Seeing anything bad happen to my or anyone's dog is still the only thing that makes me top shelf angry, and probably the only scenario in which I would act out that way again. People who abuse animals are the lowest of the low, and I'd have no issue beating the shit out of any adult who so much took a swing at my dog. But it's the fact that I did it to a child that I feel I was wrong." Someone else replies saying, "You didn't do serious damage or cause any horrible mental trauma. Normally, I don't condone things like that. But who the fuck kicks a dog in the stomach and calls it ugly for no reason? I can't imagine someone being so shitty. Worst case scenario, you taught the little shit a lesson about being an asshole to animals. Don't stress too much about it. And the OP responds saying, I very possibly broke one or more of his ribs. If I'm being honest with myself about how hard I kicked him, like he definitely didn't die from his injuries or anything close to that, but he was fine to run off. So he was fine enough to recover. But he may have had some lasting injuries. I don't stress about it as much as I do think about it. It's the only violent thing I've ever done to someone who I was physically stronger than. I know that he was an awful little punk kid, but I still feel bad for not being a better adult and more in control of my actions. And alright guys, that wraps up some horrific confession threads. This was a wild video. And what did you think? Comment down below your thoughts. I read every single comment on every single video, so please leave your comments, concerns, and feedback down below. I love you guys, and I love the comments and the community we've built here. And I'm glad that some of you guys can get some relief from sending in a confession. And if you'd like to see a confession in a future video, please send it to the email in the description. Thank you. I appreciate everyone who sends in their confessions, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of relief if you're holding on to anything super, deep or something that disturbs you. And I think it's nice to have that outlet for many people. So thank you everyone who sends in their confessions. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you will enjoy some other videos on the channel. So go check out some other videos on the channel. Thank you. And all right, this was enough yapping from me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And this is Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.